So, Kaisa, as a woman doing arts, woman in arts, what kind of artist are you? How do you define yourself?
Interesting question. First of all, hello. Congratulations on the new magazine. I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you.
I'm so glad and so excited for this new adventure that you're embarking on, and the name is especially wonderful. I think for a magazine that treats literature from Estonia, from English-speaking countries and Spanish-speaking countries. Aksolotl is a wonderful name, but I have. I've tried to define myself or name myself over the years many times. It has been a journey for sure, because it's quite important to have some sort of an anchor in the form of a position or a name or a genre or something similar. So I thought I was a literary researcher. That was for a long time my main definition of myself. Then I've defined myself as a journalist, somewhat, but I've always been a musician. I've always been a singer, and now I want to be a clown, an artist, a star, even I might say. But the best I've found, the best title for myself, is that I am a professional in arts. It's always it has also, of course, given me some fears of maybe being labeled as a dilettante, doing all of those things a bit and not focusing on anything very specifically. But during my working career, or the years that I've been active, I've actually found this to be the positive side of it, of being in all of those pots a bit, to understand the scope of the arts world, to understand what is even possible, and to have a slightly wider view. So I will gladly be named a dilettante, because these are the ones who are clever and survive.
And actually, the world of arts also changes all the time.
Yes.
I mean, contemporary art, contemporary literature changes all the time, and the people should go with it as well. So
I agree that especially now when the changes are that fast, and interdisciplinary approaches are the ones that actually also excite me most. When there are overlaps between music and poetry and visual arts and performing arts, these are the areas of the arts world that really excite me most, which is why I'm just very glad to be in the middle of all those different areas. And yes, it has, of course, its own downsides. It's been difficult to communicate, to explain to people what I do, who am I, and it might also be difficult to get my word out, get my arts out. It takes a bit of time, but when I get the people on board, finally, they're very loyal to me. So, I think it's a good approach.
And maybe now that we already jumped into the arts topic, you as a literature lover, because that's one of your, let's say, one of your different faces, one of your different modes, right? I read somewhere that you did your thesis, your university studies and master studies on Colombian writer. One was the university thesis on Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and your master studies on the Cuban writers Alejo Carpentier, José Lezama Lima. And for me, that was very, very interesting, because although they are very big names in literature, I mean, worldwide known,
Yes.
I don't think it's the first choice for Estonian people to focus on. I mean, why not Jan Kross? Why not Lidia Koidula? Or what was it about them?
I think it has very much to do with the fact that I am from a literary family. Both my mother and my grandparents were literature teachers, either English or Russian or Estonian literature and language teachers. So you could say that I'm a third generation kind of literature person, and this was the easiest way for me. I have always understood world through literature. And I very much liked world literature when I was young. I enjoyed American literature more than anything, and it has very much to do, of course, with the fact that I have completed an exchange year many years ago in Colombia, in Bogota, which also showed me the kind of the first-hand experience of Latin America, and I love it. I felt very at home in Latin America. I've always felt extremely at home with Latin American people. I find that my Saaremaa roots are kind of like the Latina of Estonia. So I do feel great. So I'm just very in love with Latin American literature. I'm a big fan, I can say.
What do you like more, poetry or
prose?
Or prose.
I also love essayistics very much. I love the essayistics and actually my PhD studies, which I've unfortunately failed. Well, that has been a thing in my life as well. I was very much focused on these Cuban authors, comparing the differences in the imagery of the Cuban writers in their poetry, in their prose, and in their essayistics. Mm-hmm. I think there are structural similarities within these kind of bodies of work. And I also think there are quite a few similarities between Latin American and Estonian writers. I thought about it a bit. So what I studied, and I did a lot of work on the boom writers, yes, and then the neo-Baroque writers from the slightly later or late boom, or even like the after boom of Latin America. And I've always been kind of fascinated by the idea that my supervisor, the Estonian poet Jüri Talvet, has taken over from the Latin American literary critics and researchers. It's kind of, the concept is called tellurismo, tellurism, tellurism in Estonian, which comes from the Latin word tellus, meaning earth, meaning the ground, the soil. And the concept supposedly states that some of the traces we can find in literary imagery can be traced back to the soil or the environment that this literature comes from, which is not, I would say, the most, it's not that crazy of an idea.
No.
There might be something in there. It's not that much about the language even maybe, and it's not about the character of the people, it's about the environment.
Culture, perhaps?
I think these things are all very much connected somehow. So I had a feeling of Latin America. It was a warm feeling, first of all. It was a feeling of multitude. It was a feeling of many people, of large lands, of forests that are quite dangerous, especially La Selva. You can find it might be quite dangerous, and it's a forest of strong smells, strong tastes, of animals, of people, of diversity. More than anything, everything in Latin America is big. There's a lot of it. So the imagery that I also find, the telluristic imagery of Latin Americans is exactly that. It's very diverse, it's colorful, it's explosive, it's strongly worded, detailed, so it has everything to do with the country as well. And this is very different from Estonia, from Estonian writing, because I think our tellurism is quite different. Our environment is small, is very subtle, so I think this also reflects in our literature a bit. But there are also a lot of similarities which have to do, and these are essential to both the boom writing and the neo-Baroque writing, and I would say to Latin American writing from the very beginning, by which I mean starting from the 15th century, because this is already the thing that the Almirante, he also noticed, that this land is diverse, is colorful, is very kind of dangerous, interesting, and I think he already, the moment he saw the country, he understood there's lots of money in here. It's a resourceful country of land. But what is similar between those two sides of the ocean is that we have a strong and a long experience with oppression, with occupations, with violence, with fighting for our own cultures. And this is something that is very essential to magical realism, which is important also in Estonian literature, that there is the sense of creating oneself all of the time in the front of a larger culture.
You also learned Spanish, right, when you were in Colombia? Mm-hmm. How did you learn?
It's thanks to my mothers. I have a lot of mothers. I know it's biologically impossible, but I do believe, as a queer person, I do believe in chosen families.
Absolutely.
And I've chosen to have many mothers, many fathers, and many sisters and brothers. My Colombian exchange family was a very wonderful family, and we are still in touch. We are still a family. I'm still their daughter. So I started just listening, and I was not very afraid to make mistakes. I went to school. I was very young and very receptive. So this is how I learned Spanish, and I love the language. It's great.
Do you still read books in Spanish?
I do, absolutely. I do read books.
Doesn't it bother you that there are very few Latin American writers translated to Estonian?
Of course it bothers me, and I am trying to do something about it as well. So I've always translated. I've just translated a short novel of Cesar Aira for Salv, and I hope to do it more and more. Because I love also translating quite a lot.
We need more people like you in Estonia, guys.
It's a thankless job, but I love it.
Continue with this topic of literature and Estonia and Latin America. Where do you think Estonian literature is going at the moment? I mean, is it stuck? Is it really going somewhere? Is it dying? I mean, for example, do the new generations care about Estonian literature, or maybe other countries are taking over? How do you see the scene?
We do know that it's important. Our literature is a great part of our identity, and there are young people coming up that are very interested in writing. Värske Rõhk is doing a wonderful job. There are already young people gathering into different groups of young writers. Eesti Kirjanike Liit has their Young Writers Association, which is working hard, giving out almanacs every year. I would say the situation might not be as bad as we make it out for. Yes, literature is heavily underfinanced. This is a problem that has now, even the cultural minister has taken this into her talks, that yes, of course, arts is well underfunded, but literature, it's even worse. That's true. Literature takes time. It's a slow art. Reading is not popular among children. That is the problem all over the world. But there are people who still love reading, who still love taking time to understand a story, who still love character building, who love beautiful language. So I'm not sure it is tragic. I think it's going well.
I'm also quite surprised about the amount of publishers. If you take into account how big is the country,
exactly,
and like how the size of the market, I think it's huge. And my only point of comparison is Mexico, where people read one book per year. Sad story. So that is a sad story. Which do you think is the genre that is more popular nowadays in Estonia? Is it poetry? Is it criminal novel? What do you think is hot these days?
I have a feeling that it actually might be short stories. I think short stories are somehow connected, are going well because of the times again. The short forms and formats are suited to our fast-paced lives. We have always had a strong tradition of short story, of story writing.
And as you said, suited to the fast-paced times,
Yes,
where you can just sit down, read something, and finish it in the same.
and it's also it's this one short story already from the format. Kind of like as a literary scientist, you need one good idea, you need one color that is very strong, not very many plot twists, and you have to. It's this one very sharp and strong taste of something that is, and you can have many in one book. I think Piret Raud is one of the greatest that we have at the moment, and she is going strong. She is just banging out those books in a very fast pace, and they're all great.
I think it was Gabriel Garcia Marquez in his 12 Peregrine stories who wrote in the prologue that to write a short story, you need the same intensity, the same blood.
Exactly.
Than if you write a novel.
This is one good book. Thank you for reminding me. Oh, I love that one.
It's somewhere in the prologue. But let's go to other forms of art. Music, which is probably now one of your strongest parts, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. I enjoy being on stage very much.
Which are your influences in music for you as an artist?
I started from a slightly weird place, or an interesting place for a musician. I mean, I've always done music. I did music school. I played the violin when I was small. I was in choirs, so a quite traditional kind of musical upbringing, I would say. And my house was very musical. Although my parents say they cannot sing, neither of them can sing, they know stories. They know old songs, folk songs, quite a lot, and these songs were always there. Even within a conversation, sometimes something had to be said in song, in a folk song, because the folk song had said it better than just words can. There's for me, songs, and especially folk songs, both in Estonia and all over the world, in Colombia, in the United States, are like a concentrated experiences that many people have sung for many generations already, because they're kind of distillates of some idea or some pain or some luck, some success story. And this is why I love those kind of folk songs very much. And this is why I've taken many of my influences from actually the Estonian folk music, from also the newer folk music, which is actually lent from German or Russian cultures. So I've also in Latin America, I was very much influenced by the cantauras of the Pacific coast. So Omar Portuondo, Martina Camargo, and the others, very important singers who believe in their country and in their stories again. And in the United States, well, most of my music nowadays is based on the old blues songs of the early 20th century.
How the idea of creating, starting Kaisa Ling thing started? Where did it start?
Well, it was 2017, and I already had an inkling that I was not going to be a literature professor. Very sad. I was very sad about it. It has been one of the greatest kind of failures in my life, for sure. But I've made my peace with it. I'm still sad about it, but it's okay. I will be a great blues singer at the moment, maybe. Hopefully.
You can still be literature professor.
I'm not even sure that it's my dream anymore. Dreams change. We change.
Yeah.
During our lives, and many things come and go, and our dreams come and go, and they evolve and they change, and it's normal, I think. and I'm not that sad anymore. And then, well, I started a solo career. I remember I had this idea that now I'm going to start came already. I think it was in 2011 or 12 that I left my last choir in Tartu. And I said, now I'm going to start my solo career. And by 2017, I felt that I had enough baggage of songs and ideas and stories that I could actually do something with it. And I found my pianist, René, who gave me the possibility of starting a live band. And we are both very much into live music, which is what we do. Mm-hmm. We do concerts for people in a room with walls. and I think, yeah, that's where we started. And I wanted to do feminist music. I wanted to do music that has kind of unexpected thoughts in it, a bit scandalous, which means that I would just be speaking the truth, which sometimes is quite scandalous, you know. And I wanted to be humorous. So putting all of those things together with my influences and my background, that's what you get, Kaisa Ling thing. And it's me on the stage, which I've kind of started to regret. That why do I have to have my name in the band now? Now I can't put a replacement on the stage.
Thank you so much, Kaisa. It has been great. Thank you for sharing so much of your life, of your feelings, of yourself with us here today. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and good luck with the revista Aksolotl.
Gracias. Muchas gracias.